I never thought I'd stand here again looking at my parents' front door after all these years. My name is Barbara, and this house keeps memories that I tried so hard to forget. My phone seems heavy in my pocket. It is still hot from the unexpected call of my mother, who asked me to come urgently. My car is in the driveway, and I can't help but think of my 9-year-old daughter, Paula, whom I just brought to friend Sarah. It will only take a couple of hours, I told Paula, trying to seem more confident than I felt. The last time I spoke normally with my parents was at my grandmother's funeral 3 years ago. It was that terrible day when I was 18, when they chose my sister Tina over me. I still remember stopping at this very place. Tears ran down my face when they told me they would give my college money to Tina for her wedding. But this is my education. I screamed. Your sister needs a real wedding, Mom said firmly. You can take student loans like everyone else. I left that day and never came back. Grandma was the only one by my side. It helped me pay community tuition, not the prestigious university I had dreamed of, but it was better than nothing. I worked hard, graduated, and built my life. The following years were blurred and filled with small victories. I met Akak, my and Marito husband, during my senior year of college. We got married, we had Paula, and for a while everything seemed perfect. Even after our divorce 2 years ago, everything remained civil. Akak pays good child support, and we both put Paula first. Now, at 36, I'm fine. I bought an apartment with an inheritance from my grandmother, God bless her soul. It brings a stable income from rent. Between child support and my part-time job in the company, I can afford to spend a lot of time with Paula. Taking a deep breath, I finally ring the bell. Whatever they want, I tell myself. I'm not scared anymore. I'm not that 18-year-old Barbara anymore. Mom opens the door, and her enthusiasm surprises me. She looks older than I remember, more gray hair in her hair, more wrinkles around her eyes. Dad stands behind her trying to smile, but her eyes remain alert. Where's Paula? Mom looks around. He is with a friend, I will cut, crossing the threshold. You said it was urgent. The house smells of Mom's own vanilla air freshener mixed with Dad's coffee. They take me into the living room and notice how things look a little worn. The chic furniture they bought for Tina's wedding betrays their age. You want some tea? Mom plays her hands like she doesn't know where to put herself. Just tell me why you called, I say, staying up. Years have passed, and suddenly it is urgent. Mom starts crying. Not the silent tears I remember from childhood, but the deep, trembling sobs. Dad hugs her, and I feel my stomach twitch. We could lose the house, he finally says. I wait, knowing there is more. There is more and more with them. Your sister, Mom starts, and a familiar spasm squeezes my stomach. Naturally. It's because of Tina. She asked us to take a business loan for her husband. For Tom's business, I clarify, and my voice sounds flat. Mom nods. We used the house as collateral. Let me guess, I cross my arms over my chest. Tina doesn't pay? Tom is bankrupt. Dad looks everywhere, but not at me. They stopped paying, and we can't cover it ourselves. I feel my fingers clench my fists, my nails dig into my palms. Standing in the middle of a living room drenched in the smell of vanilla and stale coffee, I look at parents whose faces express both guilt and pleading. So now you came to me? My voice is lower than I expected, but there is not a hint of surprise. After all these years, after everything that has happened, are you addressing me? Mom sobs loudly, her shoulders shake, and Dad still does not dare to meet my gaze. They look aged, tired, exhausted, as if all the weight of the lived years suddenly accumulated on them in a moment. Barbara, please, my mother finally spoke, without taking off my reddened eyes. We didn't know who else to turn to. I start laughing, and they both look at me like I'm crazy. Is that why you called me the daughter you left behind? I looked straight into my mother's eyes. The one you gave the education fund to get you out of another crisis Tina created? Mom quickly wipes her eyes, tightly squeezing the crumpled handkerchief. We know you're doing well, he says, and there's despair in his voice hidden behind a faint calm. Your apartment, rental income, we wouldn't ask if we weren't in that position. I'm in front of them, in front of these people who preferred Tina to me at every step. That they didn't bother to send me an invitation to my sister's wedding. That they barely recognized me at my grandmother's funeral because Tina was pregnant then and their whole life revolved only around her. I'll think about it, I hear my voice, detached and flat. I'm as surprised as they are. I have to get Paula. When I leave, I cannot shake off the feeling of being on the threshold of something important. Either it will be the biggest mistake of my life or the most significant decision I have ever made. In any case, nothing will be the same. Mom, why are you crying? Paula asks as soon as I take her from Sarah. My daughter has always been too receptive. I quickly dry my eyes without even realizing that I cried the whole time. I just thought of one thing, honey, I reply, trying to sound nonchalant. About what? I hesitate, but then I exhale. I saw your grandparents today. Paula's eyes light up instantly. Really? The ones in the pictures? Nod. Can I meet them? Of course, she'd like to meet them. They're her grandparents. Even if you never bothered to be part of his life. The next week I struggled with my thoughts, barely sleeping, losing all sorts of scenarios in my head. You're crazy, Sarah told me over coffee. Maybe this is so, I confessed, looking at the drawing by hand on a paper towel. But Paula deserves the chance to get to know her grandparents. I paused, picking up the words. And honestly, maybe I need it too. To finally deal with all this. So a week later I found myself back in the driveway of my parents' house. This time with Paula bouncing excitedly in the passenger seat. The meeting was strange. Mom burst into tears again. Dad stood, moving awkwardly from foot to foot, before Paula broke the ice by running and hugging them both. They looked shocked. Then happy. And for a moment something real flashed in their eyes. Joy. The one I saw earlier, directed only at Tina. We spent the day together. I saw Paula completely fascinate them. He showed them his drawings, talked about the school, about his friends, about how he won a spelling contest. And they listened. Every word. And I saw something I did not expect, regret. It was in their eyes, the way they looked at me. That evening, when Paula and I were on our way home, she was happily chatting about her grandparents. And I decided. Maybe I was crazy. Perhaps he was preparing for even greater pain. But I was going to help them. The next day, I called my real estate agent. I decided to rent my apartment again. Then I called my mother. I'll help with the loan payments, I said, before I could change my mind. I'm moving in with Paula. On the other side of the wire, silence dangled. The rental income from my apartment will go to the loan payments. I'll help you with the accounts. I stopped, gathering with spirit. But we have to set limits. At first, Mom remained silent. Then she sobbed. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. 2 weeks later, Paula and I moved in. I bought new household appliances. An elegant refrigerator with an ice maker is what Paula liked so much. A dishwasher that really worked. And a washing machine that didn't look like it was about to explode. Dad's back problems disappeared when he no longer had to wash the dishes by hand, and Mom seemed genuinely happy to see us there. Life entered a surprisingly comfortable rut in the coming months. Mom made breakfast for everyone, and despite my initial doubts, I was forced to admit that it was nice to go downstairs for coffee and fresh pancakes. He would pick up Paula from school, help her with homework, and even start teaching her how to cook, which I never had the patience to do. Dad switched to a part-time job. Persistent back pain finally disappeared and physical activity decreased. He taught Paula to play chess, which I never learned, and their weekly games became a tradition. I found myself working longer hours in the office knowing that Paula was well cared for. One day my boss, Mrs. Thompson, called me to the office. "We've noticed you've been getting busier lately. How do you feel about the promotion?" The new position meant more money, but also more responsibility, including regular business trips to other states. Before I would have refused immediately. Mother girl. No support system. It wouldn't work. But now. I agree, I said to myself, amazed at how sure he was. When I first had to leave on a business trip, I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. 3 days in Chicago seemed like an eternity. Everything will be fine, I repeated to myself, probably 100 times. And it really was. Mom sent me pictures of Paula, doing homework, having dinner, playing with Dad. But there were moments, little things that bothered me. For example, when Tina called her mother and disappeared into her room and then appeared with red eyes. Or when I was once setting up my mother's new tablet and accidentally saw bank transfer notifications. The money went to Tina's account. "He needs help," Mom defended herself when I asked him. "She has a difficult relationship with Tom." "Mom, I pay all your bills. And a loan that Tina didn't pay. How is it right for you to send her money? You don't understand." Suddenly it broke out. Tina is not to blame for the collapse of Tom's business. He has 2 children to feed. I have a son. And all your bills to pay, I reiterated. But Mom already turned her back, interrupting the conversation. Like he always did when it came to Tina. These disputes have become more and more frequent. But I tried to ignore them. Paula was happy. I was advancing in my career. And most of the time it felt like we were healing old wounds. One day, after a few glasses of wine, Dad apologized. "We made mistakes," he said, looking into his glass. I wanted to say more. I wanted us to finally talk about something we've avoided for 18 years. But Mom quickly changed the subject for Paula's upcoming school play. It's been 3 years. Paula turned 12 years old. Every day she looked more mature. I got used to my new role at work. I used to travel every few weeks, but I always came home to my daughter happy. Loan payments were stable. The bills have been paid. Life was stable. And then everything changed. It was a normal day. I came back from my trip to Denver, tired but happy. At home everything was calm. Paula drew at the kitchen table, Dad read the newspaper, and Mom cooked soup. I put the suitcase at the door and went to my room. And when I opened the dresser drawer, it seemed to me that I was electrocuted. Card. Bank statements. A sign. Thousands of dollars transferred to Tina's account. Month by month. Unbeknownst to me. I stood, holding these papers in my hand, feeling the anger bubbling in me. "Mom." He appeared at the door, his face instantly paled when he saw what I was holding. "Barbara. You lied to me," I showed on paper. "You took the money I gave to pay for the house and sent it to Tina." His hands clasped as if he wanted to defend himself. "He's in trouble. He's always in trouble." I raised my voice. "You drag her for life. I thought we'd started all over again. That we had a chance. But you chose her again." Mom squeezed her lips. "She's my daughter." "Me too." I felt my eyes full of tears. "But you never thought that, did you?" Mom turned around. The silence between us was heavier than lead. I squeezed the papers into my fist and left the room without listening to what he was trying to say. I couldn't sleep that night. And then came that Tuesday. I remember it was Tuesday because I had just closed a big deal and boarded an early return flight, eager to surprise Paula. I heard voices from the driveway. Too many votes. Opening the front door, I set foot in the chaos. On my parents' couch, which I just dragged last month, Tina collapsed, with 2 children sitting next to her. I recognized them from the photos, but I had never met my niece and nephew before. Suitcases were scattered around the living room, as if a detachment of displaced people had just landed here. Tina was writing on the phone, barely looking up as I walked in. "Oh," he said in the same tone that made it clear I was interrupting something. "Look who's here." And that's how I realized that things would change again. Only this time I was not a naive 18-year-old girl. And he would not let history repeat itself. "I left Tom," Tina lazily announced from the couch, as if commenting on the weather. "He's a total loser." I stood, still holding my work bag, trying to make sense of what I had heard. The parents were sitting in their chairs and looking around, but not at me. Children Anna, 10, and Michael, 6, fell apart on the floor, buried in tablets. I blinked, slowly aware of what was happening. "You'll stay here," I repeated, trying to keep my voice flat. "In the house where I pay all the bills and the loan that you did not pay?" Tina's face blushed. "Oh, there he is. Miss Perfection with her money and her work. Some of us have real problems, Barbara. Real problems." I felt the anger bubbling in me. To take a huge loan in the name of the parents and then not to repay it is such a problem. "Girls, please." Mom finally found her voice. "We're family. We must stand together in times like these." I had a chuckle. It's funny how family becomes important when you need something. Where was this family spirit when you gave my money to college? Or when you didn't even invite me to the wedding? It was years ago. Mom broke out. "Why can't you let him go? Your sister needs us now." The following weeks were intense. Tina was on the couch all day, texting, watching TV. His children ran around the house, creating a mess that no one cleaned. But what hurt me the most was something else. Parents have changed. Paula suddenly became invisible to them. When she tried to show her grandmother a math test for which she received an A, Mom only brushed it off, committed to helping Michael with his video game. When Paula asked her father to play their weekly chess game, he replied that he was too tired. And then he spent 2 hours playing ball with Anna in the backyard. It was like a cold shot. "Mom," I met her one evening, when Paula was already sleeping. "What's going on? Why do you feel so for Paula?" Mom didn't even look at me. "Don't make me laugh," he brushed it off. "Paula is older, she does not need so much attention. Anna and Michael are younger, now they need support." "Support?" I swallowed, trying to keep my voice flat. "Paula is 12 years old. She also just started getting to know her grandparents." But my mother had already turned around, hurrying to Tina's call, who asked her to bring her something to eat. 2 months crawled. I went to work, took on additional projects, just not to be at home. Tina was still looking for work. The parents seemed to agree. Paula tried to adapt. He spent more time with Sarah, he started talking to me less. I once saw her sitting on the steps of the garden. "Is everything okay?" I asked, sitting next to it. He shrugged. "Anna said that grandparents love her more than me." I felt that something inside me had broken. "That's not true," I said, but even I myself felt how weak he was. Paula looked at me. "I think it's true." I opened my mouth to protest, but I kept quiet. Because he was right. And then the day came when I realized that it could not continue like this. I came home from work and found Tina lying on the couch with her phone in one hand and a glass of wine in the other. Children made noise in the living room. Mom ran between the kitchen and the living room, satisfying Tina's every need. I went to my room and noticed an open letter on the bedside table. From the bank. Late mortgage payment. The amount was higher than I expected. I grabbed the letter and headed to my mother. Why do I only know now? She froze. Barbara. You said I covered all the payments. So why did I just get a debt letter? He squeezed his lips and suddenly scared me. You didn't spend money on a mortgage. You sent them back to Tina, didn't you? Mom looked away. He's got kids, Barbara. I gritted my teeth. Me too. Mom sobbed. But this time it didn't touch me. Every time I raised it, they defended it. He's going through a hard time, Dad said. She needs to think about the children, Mom added. In the meantime, I was still paying for everything. Credit, bills, products that now seemed to disappear twice as fast. But money wasn't what bothered me the most. I was worried about the way Paula was becoming a ghost at her house. Then came that Wednesday. I came home early hoping to take Paula to the ice cream. Our little escape when things were getting too stressful at home. I heard the screams before I even opened the front door. You are a lazy child, not good at all. Tina's voice echoed around the house. Look at this mess. Take him away now. I rushed inside. Tina was standing over Paula, who was on her knees collecting scattered toys. I recognized them. They were Michael's toys. What's going on here? I asked, feeling clenched fists. Your precious princess refused to help in the house. Tina spat. She thinks she's too good to clean up after her cousins. Your cousins? I looked at the toys. You mean your kids screwed up? Where are they? Tina rolled her eyes. Judging by the way they sleep, someone must maintain order in this house. And you decided it was going to be Paula? You're never there, Tina said coldly. I'm never there because I work. Unlike some who lie all day waiting for everyone else to support them. A disgusting discussion began. Tina ran to her parents, acting out a scene in front of them, while they took his side. Sure, get up. Barbara, you must be more understanding, implored Mom. Tina's children. What about my baby? What about Paula? But they did not answer. They never answered when it came to choosing between Tina and me. I thought it was a bad thing. But I had no idea what would happen next week. I had to fly to Seattle for an emergency meeting with a client. 5 days. You gonna be okay? I asked Paula for the 100th time for breakfast. Everything will be fine, Mom, she assured me, trying to smile. I have a phone and we'll talk on video call. During the first days of my trip, everything went as usual. And then, at about 9 o'clock in the evening, Seattle time, my phone rang. A picture of Paula appeared on the screen. Mom, his voice was low, interrupted by sobs. Mom, I'm out. I stopped breathing. What? Tina kicked me out. I jumped up. What? He said, Paula's voice trembled. She said I'm stubborn and I've always quarreled. I think I'm the best. He was out. 1. At night. With trembling hands, I called Sarah. Can you get Paula? He's outside his parents' house. Sarah didn't even ask questions. I'm on my way. Then I called Tina. He answered the 5th call. Oh, did the princess call you? His voice was lazy and mocking. Maybe now she will learn not to be so stubborn. I hung up. and I called my parents. Mom answered immediately. "Your niece is out," I said coldly. "Break. Did you know? Did you see Tina throw her out?" I heard my mother sigh. "Perhaps." His voice got tough. "Maybe it's even better, Barbara." I froze. "What?" "Maybe you and Paula should look for another place to live." Calm and flat voice. "Like it's obvious." "Really? It doesn't fit here anymore." At that point, things became very clear. Some things never change. Some people never change. I nodded, even though my mother hadn't seen it. "You're right, Mom," I said quietly. "We don't match." We never got close. I hung up and booked my first flight back. It's time to break this cycle once and for all. Flying home was the longest 5 hours of my life. Sarah sent me news about Paula every half hour, but I couldn't calm down until I hugged my daughter. When I finally arrived at Sarah's house at 3 in the morning, Paula was sleeping on the couch, curled up in a lump. Her cheeks still showed signs of tears. "He told me what happened," Sarah whispered as I gently stroked Paula's hair. "Barbara, it's worse than you think." I hold my breath. According to Paula, Tina treated her like a waitress for weeks. I felt my fingers clench my fists. He forced her to clean the house, cook for her children, wash their things. I closed my eyes. And when Paula finally said that she had to prepare for the exam, Sarah swallowed. Tina's lost control. I looked at her, expecting a blow that was already inevitable. He yelled at her. He told me to leave. The air in the room seemed to clot. Paula said that it was not her house, that I pay for everything. And then Tina grabbed her hand and pushed her against the door. I stopped breathing. My parents were there, Barbara. They saw it. And they didn't do anything. I felt an icy rage pouring on my body. I let Paula sleep and spent the night arranging the escape. I first called the rental agency, explaining the situation, asking them to help me and the current tenants vacate the apartment first. So, a lawyer should inquire about my rights to household appliances and furniture that I purchased from my parents' home. And finally to the transport company. The next morning, I took Paula to her favorite restaurant. "Baby, I need honesty," I said, watching her pick up the pancakes. "Has that happened before?" He remained silent for a long time. "Yes," he whispered at the end. My heart clenched. "Tina hurt you before?" He said I was spoiled. Paula lowered her eyes. "I think I'm better than his kids." My hands shook as I clutched a cup of coffee. "Grandma said the same thing. That I need to know my place." I covered her hand with mine. "Listen to me, Paula." He looked up at me, so wise that for a second I forgot that he was only 12 years old. "Nothing, absolutely nothing matters more to me than you." I stopped, holding back tears. Not even my parents. Nor their home. None of this. I clasped her palm. "Let's go home. In our apartment. And this time we stay there." After breakfast, we went to our parents' house. Tina's car was gone. She was probably busy again with her secret business that was never about looking for work. Mom opened the door. The surprise flashed in her face. "Barbara, we didn't wait for your return so soon." I got through it without saying a word. Paula's hand was tightly clutching mine. The moving team I hired was already waiting outside. "Take everything I bought," I said. "Refrigerator. Washing machine. Dishwasher. Sofa. TV." I walked around the house pointing out every single thing I paid for. "You can't do that." My mother's voice trembled with panic. "We need these things." I calmly handed over documents with proof of purchase to the movers. Actually, I can, I replied. Dad came home while the movers worked. He stood at the door, watching them dismantle the entertainment system I had bought him last Christmas. Barbara. Start. But I interrupted him. Don't look. Shudder. You saw Tina throw your niece out. I approached him. You chose Tina again. He remained silent. And this time you chose her instead of Paula. My mother's voice trembled. Barbara, what about the accounts? I turned to both of them. You'll have to take care of it yourself. I took a break. Just like I had to take care of college on my own. I looked at them. Just like Paula had to figure out how to survive when she was kicked out at night. I inhaled, feeling liberated. Consider this my last payment for all the times you chose Tina over me. The following months were interesting. My parents and Tina did not give up without a fight. The calls started the next day. First Mom. Then Dad. Then Tina. Then Mom again. They left voicemails from angry accusations to tearful pleas. The text messages were even worse. Screenshots of their overdue invoices. Photos of Tina's children with sad faces. Attempts to blame me. Trying to figure out how they could lose the house. My mother even sent me pictures of my old bedroom as if she could somehow make me change my mind. Why don't you answer? Paula asked one evening when my phone vibrated from another message. We sat on the balcony, ate pizza, and watched the sunset. Our apartment now looked different. Smaller than the parents' house, but somewhat more spacious. Without the burden of their expectations. Without their constant demands. Because we owe them nothing else. I smiled, putting the phone aside. Sometimes the best answer is not to answer at all. Paula nodded. Sometimes I miss chess games with my grandfather, he admitted. But not the way they made me feel when Aunt Tina was around. I pulled her towards me, kissing the top of my head. We can give you chess lessons if you want. She smiled. You can learn from someone who will not stop playing with you just because your cousin appeared. He thought for a moment, then smiled more broadly. You. That would be great. Weeks turned into months. Through a family video, I learned news about parents. They went back to work for a whole day, having difficulty paying the bills. The bank threatened to confiscate the house. Tina hasn't worked yet. He still complained about me to anyone who was willing to listen. But I didn't care anymore. The money I spent on their accounts now went to Paula. We traveled. We visited the theme parks. We went camping. They enrolled in cooking classes. Without the constant drama at my parents' house, I could concentrate on work. I could spend time with my daughter. Paula's scores improved. Without Tina's children interrupting her studies, she was able to join the school's chess club and make new friends. Sometimes I forced her to look at old photos from her parents' house. But he never asked to come back. One Sunday morning, almost a year after our departure, I was preparing breakfast. Paula entered the kitchen with a brooding look. Mom, are you happy now? I stopped, holding a whip. I really thought. I'm glad I got out of a toxic situation. Glad you protected your daughter. Glad to have finally stopped putting Tina first. I smiled. Yes, I said. Paula smiled again. I haven't seen such a carefree smile in years. Yes, he repeated. I like it's just the two of us. Later that day, I deleted all my parents' numbers from my phone. I saved their voicemails, but put them in a folder that said, never again. In case I start to doubt my decision. I heard from relatives that the bank finally confiscated the house. Parents moved to a small apartment. And Tina. Tina found herself another person to move her life on. Her new boyfriend. Apparently, now it's up to him to pay his bills. Sometimes I wonder if they ever realized what they did wrong. Or convince me that I'm selfish. But honestly, I don't care anymore. Paula and I have a small family. But she is real. We travel whenever we want. We laugh whenever we want. And we must never apologize for who we are. The money I used to spend on my parents' accounts now goes to the Paula College Fund. And this time, no one will give them to someone else's wedding. What do you think of this story? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it. See you soon.